This is one where I think we're going to have a really exciting summer this year once they start drilling this thing, because the targets are awesome. So this is one you definitely want to be keeping an eye on, because it's going to be exciting. So why don't you walk us through these brand new targets? Sharyn Alexander, Sun Summit.
Thank you, Eric. I think I'm the shortest one today. So as Eric mentioned, we have some diverse projects in British Columbia, so we're focused there. Cautionary notes about forward-looking statements. Please do your own due diligence. Investment in the mining sector is inherently risky, as you are all aware, I'm sure. So we are focused in British Columbia. We have two great projects. We've just picked up the JD project, as Eric mentioned, that's in the Toodoggone. So it has epithermal gold and silver, as well as some copper porphyry potential. As well, our Buck project, for those who have been following the story for a while, that's a bulk tonnage gold, silver, zinc property in central BC. Both projects have existing access and infrastructure. They're in great jurisdictions. We recently closed a $2.5 million private placement, so we are well funded for exploration. And we have quite a few value drivers coming up, including advancing our projects pretty rapidly and bringing some shareholder wealth back to the company as well. So looking at the JD project first, this is up in the Toodoggone region, which is just east of the Golden Triangle. So the Golden Triangle is a very prolific region, a lot of gold, silver, and copper mines. The Toodoggone is the same rocks, so very similar style of mineralization and age of rocks, and so large potential for significant deposits in the Toodoggone as well. Some people have called it the Golden Horseshoe, and so that's a term that I'm happy to keep saying. There is a lot of potential in the Toodoggone, much less explored, and so there's a lot of potential for discovery of high-value deposits here. Focusing in on the Toodoggone region itself and some of our neighbors, it has quite a bit of discovery potential. Not only is the area geologically very interesting, but our neighbors are very interesting. We're situated to the east of Thesis Gold, and so they just had their merger with Benchmark last year. We're to the west of TDG Gold. They have their previously producing mines, Baker and Shasta. As Eric mentioned, Thesis has been doing quite a lot of exploration work, as well as recently put out a combined resource on their Lawyers and Ranch deposit. So that's 4 million ounces measured and indicated, as well as another 700,000 ounces in inferred. And so there's quite a lot of activity that's been happening in this region over the years. Thesis has built up the road, put bridges across the rivers. And so at one time, this area was pretty remote, but the infrastructure and access has really developed. This is just north of the Kamess mining camp. So Kamess South was an open pit copper gold mine. It's on care and maintenance now. However, there's still active exploration and some development going on in the region. So the whole area is a copper gold belt. The road is still in existence, as well as the hydroelectric grid, and so there's power. And I believe as well their mill is still operational. So a great jurisdiction. There's a airstrip right there as well, which can take planes from Terrace, Prince George, and Smithers as well. So definitely a lot less remote than it has been in the past. This property has been previously explored, so it's a chance to explore and test highly prospective ground with multiple untested targets. So there's quite a lot of potential. There's quite a lot of exploration upside with less exploration risk, given the amount of exploration that has been done on the property already. We're focusing mostly on the Finn and the Creek zone, so that's where most of the drilling has been done in the past, and our recent news releases have outlined some of the targets that we've delineated in this area. But there's also, in addition to the epithermal gold and silver that we see at these targets, there's also potential for copper porphyry. So those are more grassroots, but there's definitely a lot of potential here, and we can really hit the ground running with the amount of exploration that's been conducted already. The Fin Zone, this is seeing most of the drilling, so it's about 270 drill holes, so quite extensive. We're not looking to reinvent the wheel here, but we do want to see how big the system can get. So when looking at some of the grades, 35 meters at 7 gram per ton gold, 20 meters of 10, 20 gram per ton gold, as well as shorter intercepts of higher grade vein hosted, so a meter, half a meter of 100, 200 gram per ton gold. So pretty impressive grades. As mentioned, we are looking to see how big the system can be here, do some step out drilling, and as well focus on along strike and see really what's controlling the mineralization here, but it's a really good start. The Creek Zone is about 4 kilometers to the west of the Fin Zone. Very limited drilling, only about 20 drill holes. And again, we're seeing some pretty high grades, 22 meters at 11 gram per ton gold, 4 meters at 60 gram per ton gold. And of course, this was, I believe we mentioned in one of the news releases, this was reassayed for over 100 gram per ton gold. I haven't really mentioned the silver. There's still really high grades as well in some of the drilling of silver. And so this is a really great, promising epithermal environment for both gold and silver. What's interesting to mention about both the drilling at the Fin and the Creek zones is that the historic drilling has only been selectively sampled. And so you can see in the cross section here, particularly little bits of assays down the trace. And the rest, they only sampled what was visible mineralization. And we know through some of the surrounding projects that with Thesis, for example, some of the mineralization is not visible. And so there's a high potential to have continuous mineralization down trace once we continuously sample the whole hole, which is an upside right there. Our recent news release went through some of the results of data compilation and review we've done. So in the Fin to Creek corridor, it's just under 5 kilometers. We're seeing some pretty impressive geochemical anomalies, and this is from soil samples and rock samples. Looking at some of the rock samples, over 300 gram per ton gold, 70, 50 gram per ton gold, over 1,000, over 6,000 gram per ton silver. So some pretty impressive grades in rock samples that we're seeing. Some zones, for example, the Schmidt zone and the Wolf zone are pretty high grade. And then in addition to that, you can see on the map, the soils have been gridded, and so everything in the red and the pink is very anomalous. That's gold. We've had soil samples grading 8, 10, 12 gram per ton gold, which as a geologist is pretty spectacular. So when a geologist gets excited about something, you really want to pay attention. That's where I'm going with anyway. So yeah, the size and scale at Fin to Creek is pretty impressive. But then in addition, when you step back into some of these other targets, for example, the porphyry, which is associated with the epithermal rocks, we get some great grades of copper. One of the holes drilled east of Fin ended in close to 0.5% of copper, as well as rock samples have been taken from surface that grade pretty high in copper. And so these are more grassroots targets. We'll be focusing on the epithermal gold silver the first few years at least, but this is a great upside. So we're planning a pretty aggressive exploration program this year. There's going to be drilling done most likely at Fin and Creek, and we are working towards getting some drill targets in some of these other anomalies that we've discovered through geochemical data review. We're looking to do an IP geophysical survey at the Creek zone. So this has seen very limited drilling, but still has some high grades. So we'd like to get a better sense on what the controls on mineralization is. Mapping, prospecting, typical geology stuff, and then as well some LiDAR, which is like an air photo, which can help us pick out structures in the ground. So as Eric mentioned, I mean, JD is pretty much a game changer for the company. This is really a chance for us to explore a high-grade project. It has the size and scale potential, so there's about 5 kilometers of continuous gold and silver mineralization at surface. Limited drilling, so a lot of potential targets. High grade, which of course is pretty fantastic when it comes down to calculating your costs for mining. You need some of those high grades to make it worthwhile. The district is emerging, existing infrastructure, airport, and then the team as well. We have strong jurisdictional advantage. Our technical advisor actually worked on the JD project about 10, 15 years ago, and so we really have strong boots on ground experience. The Buck project, that's in central BC. I'll quickly touch on that. So it's 52,000 hectares, all road accessible, cheap to drill, accessible year round. We are in the final stages of putting an initial mineral resource estimate on the Buck main system. So this is a bulk tonnage gold silver system. And to keep in mind here, it is still open in all directions. So it has potential for expansion even after we put out the MRE. So this is currently being reviewed. We want to make sure that we have all the numbers right before we share that to the market, but we'll be sure to release that as soon as we're finished the review of the resource estimate. And then as well, we picked up a project from Teck, which is contiguous. It's a CR project, and that has copper molybdenum potential porphyry out there. Share structure, we have a pretty tight share structure, 62 million shares outstanding. Our market cap is 10 million. We've seen some pretty great movement in the share price as of late. We've had quite a lot of buying in the market. We closed our private placement, we capped at 2.5 million. We did not upsize. We were trying to minimize dilution as much as we could. And so we believe that a lot of people went into the market when they couldn't get into the placement, which has benefited the share price and our market cap. So we are fully funded and very excited to get started this summer. Directors, this is a Tukey Angus company. Tukey and the previous CEO, Bob Willis, started Sun Summit, started with projects in Mexico, and then we had the Buck project and now the JD project. And then as well, I mentioned our technical advisor has boots on ground experience at JD. So there's quite a lot of changes coming to the company. We're pretty excited. So our projects are in great jurisdictions, existing access and infrastructure. We are well funded for ongoing exploration. Some near-term catalysts, delineation and prioritization of some of these anomalies and targets that we've found in historic data, and moving those towards drill ready, and then initiation of our drill program this summer. In terms of the Buck project, we will be putting out the initial resource estimate shortly, so please stay tuned for that. And that's it, so thank you very much.